Welcome back. It's been 10 years since Hurricane Katrina devastated the Gulf Coast, claiming countless lives and devastating communities. On Thursday, the president toured the city to see the progress that has been made since the storm. Ryan Nobles is in New Orleans for us today with a look at how the city is marking this anniversary. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Bruce, good morning to you. And, it's going to be a beautiful day here in New Orleans. The temperature is going to approach 90 degrees, but there's no rain in the forecast, no hurricane-force winds. Much different than it was here 10 years ago when Hurricane Katrina blew through and devastated this region. And even though there's been a lot of progress, there is still a lot of work that still needs to be done.
Katrina, Rita, Ike, Gustav, the national recession, the BP oil spill. And we're still standing. We are still standing.
New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu wants the world to know his city's comeback story.
Over the last 10 years, the city of New Orleans has literally been to hell and back.
A testament to the city's resiliency after one of the worst disasters in U.S. history. On August 29, 2005, Hurricane Katrina slammed into the Gulf Coast as a Category 3 storm. Katrina left a field of destruction across 4 states, with New Orleans bearing the brunt.
You can see where this levee broke.
The storm breached levees, flooding most of the city. A decade later, signs of rebuilding. But despite a resurgence of business, tourism, and culture, the tedious work of recovery remains unfinished, especially in poorer communities. President Obama visited the city Thursday, touting the tremendous amount of work that's been done since the storm.
I'm here to hold up a mirror and say, because of you, the people of New Orleans working together, this city is moving in the right direction.
He adds there is still more work to be done.
Our work here won't be done when almost 40% of children still live in poverty in this city. That's not a finished job. That's not a full recovery.
And if you come to downtown New Orleans, you see that vibrant, energetic city, one of the most unique places in all the United States. That's come back completely. There's no after effects from Hurricane Katrina. But, Bruce, you don't have to go very far into some of these poorer communities to see that work that the president is talking about. And he said yesterday he hopes that the rest of the country doesn't forget about these folks that still need help in parts of New Orleans. Bruce?
And, Ryan, it must be striking to see the unevenness. Some beautiful new houses right next to abandoned lots. People who still want to come home can't come home.
Right, yeah, and that's a big thing that President Obama talked about yesterday. There were so many people that were driven out of New Orleans in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, and many of them have not been able to return. He had a message for them yesterday. He said, if you want to come home, now is the time. The city not only is prepared to take them back, but they need them back because the population is still not back up to the levels that it was before Hurricane Katrina.
Thank you, Ryan. We appreciate your reporting for us very much on this 10th anniversary. Ryan Nobles in New Orleans for us today. Joining us now, Laura Paul. She's with lower9.org, one of the organizations working hard to bring New Orleans back. And it's great to have you with us today, Laura. As someone who is there every day, even when the president and the national media aren't on site, what thoughts do you have on this 10th anniversary of Katrina?
Yes, we are here every day and have been for many years now. We are thrilled that the attention of the nation is on our work and our communities and our city. We also encourage people to take away some important lessons and messages from this week and this milestone anniversary. The city is very much not fully recovered. The lower Ninth Ward population return is 36.7%. The city average is over 88%. It's a huge disparity. We have an expression in disaster relief, which is that disasters don't discriminate. And Katrina did not discriminate. Over 80% of the city of New Orleans flooded. Disasters don't discriminate, but recoveries do. And that is the very grim reality of recovery in the lower Ninth Ward.
The devastation was so total in certain areas, there just wasn't there wasn't a place for people to go. That's why we saw this perhaps unprecedented mass outflow of residents, particularly from the areas that had the complete flooding and the complete devastation. And it's wonderful that Houston and many other cities opened their doors and provided a place for people to go, for people to live, schools, for children to attend, and all the rest. Mm-hmm. But once people got established in those other places, some roots and dealing with the psychological trauma that they had been through, it became logistically and maybe psychologically difficult to think about and to create a scenario where they could return.
I'm not sure. I got a question there.
I wanted you to pick up on that idea if there's merit to it.
Okay. I mean, yes, certainly. The population, the percentage of residential properties in the lower Ninth Ward that were rendered uninhabitable in 2005 was 100%. And yes, there are New Orleans residents in other parts of the country. I know that our mayor recently visited Atlanta and Houston, inviting those people to come home. I think it's important to note that it requires more than a mayoral invitation for people to return to their homes. They need to have a community. They need to have actual residences to return to. You know, we have an expression in economic redevelopment, which is that retailers count rooftops. So the first step is getting housing back up and available for people so that they can return, so that businesses can return, so the economy is stronger and we can all move forward together.
There recently, and by recently, I mean just in the last few weeks, was really good news relating to the Road Home program, a big, sprawling, big money federal program intended to assist people who still would love to go back to the neighborhoods that they lived in prior to the storm, but don't have the financial wherewithal. Can you give us some of the information on that?
I'm not an expert on the Road Home program. I will say, though, that the program in its initial iteration was found to be discriminatory in a federal court of law in 2011. So definitely some revisions and adjustments needed and continue to need to be made within that program. I will say that it has been the experience of this community that federal funding or government funding is very, very difficult to get your hands on. There's a number of hoops to jump through and hurdles to overcome on the way to that funding. I know that a lot of people got letters saying that they were out of compliance with what is called their Road Home Covenant. Meaning that for whatever reason they, weren't able to return to their homes with the funding provided from the original Road Home settlement. A lot of the things that were getting in people's way were things like contractor fraud, theft and vandalism, mortgage fraud, which just means that people's mortgage lenders insisted they pay their mortgage in full with settlement money rather than rebuild. And I will say that even though there have been revisions made to the program, those funds are still inordinately difficult to qualify for. So requirements from HUD are still extremely difficult to meet.
You guys do a fantastic job taking volunteers, some of whom bring skills in home renovation, but many of whom, folks like me, do not, and you're able to put us, to good use in very basic but important work, restoring homes, repairing homes, renovating homes that were destroyed by the storm.
Absolutely. I didn't know you were coming down and helping. That's fantastic. When are you going to come?
I haven't been in a couple of years, but I think I did 4 trips in the 2009-2012 period. So you don't need any building experience at all. We have skilled people to lead crews. We do fantastic work with unskilled people every day. With a little bit of training and a little bit of oversight, you'd be amazed what anybody can do. And we've fully rebuilt 75 homes in the lower Ninth Ward to date. By the end of the summer, we'll be at 78. We've done that all with volunteer labor, under skilled supervision. It's a model that works. It's extraordinarily cost-effective,
And yeah, we're getting people home, more people home than any other single organization working in Lower Ninth Ward.
Cost efficient, it may be the understatement of the year. The economics of it are that as the homeowners are able to save up some money to buy the raw materials, the plumbing stuff or the electrical or the wood and the tools, whatever it is, that stuff gets purchased. You all provide the manpower, the person power, and of course the supervision to make sure the thing gets done correctly. And before you know it, you're seeing progress on a home. I gather that the progress is still uneven. You've got some wonderful new homes. You've got people who've been able to return, and next door or down the block, you might have a renovation that still has a ways to go. You might even have an empty lot that doesn't look a whole lot different from how it looked right after Katrina. So, sadly, 10 years on, lots of progress to report, but clearly this is a long, long push.
It absolutely is, and it's so important that people recognize that long-term recovery is an issue. It's all very well and good to support wonderful causes like Red Cross and to respond to the immediate tug at your heartstrings when a disaster occurs anywhere in the world. But it's also very, very important to keep in mind that this is America. New Orleans is a major American city, and it's still very much in recovery. In some areas, and it's disheartening in a lot of ways to think it takes a decade. It's going to take another decade, before things are fully recovered here. But that is the reality, and we do need to keep that in mind and support that and work together. As a country right now, Lower9.org has a national campaign that we're focusing our attention on. It's called 50 States. We have an ambassador in every state in the country, and they're all raising awareness and raising funds for the organization, in our work moving forward.
You work with a lot of young people who take advantage of the volunteer opportunities that have been there since Katrina and are still there now. A lot of church groups come. What do volunteers tell you they get from the experience of helping people that they might meet or might not meet? What do volunteers tell you about their experience?
It's such a funny thing because we didn't get into this work to provide good volunteer experiences. We got into this work to rebuild homes. But there has been this amazing ancillary benefit to our work, which is that we're bringing, you're quite right, it's largely, we're by and large attracting young people to the cause. They're coming, they're staying sometimes for months, even years on end, and it's changing their lives in fundamental ways. Even if a group just comes for 5 days on spring break, these are upper middle class, largely Caucasian, college students. These are privileged kids from all over the country who are coming to a neighborhood that ordinarily they wouldn't have occasion to set foot in. And meeting and talking with residents and hearing their stories and helping them rebuild their homes and their lives is an experience that nobody will ever, I don't think, come back from and be the same afterward. And I think that it's a really important benefit to our work. It's just changing young minds and hearts and getting people access to these kinds of situations in neighborhoods so that they're a little bit more mindful about their own position in the world, their own privilege, and their own reality.
What can people do if they want to be part of the Gulf Coast recovery? We've been focusing a lot on New Orleans, and I don't want to omit in terms of our coverage, what the impact was broadly across the Gulf Coast region, because clearly there was a lot of damage, a lot of suffering in the states that bordered the Gulf and were hit by the storm. What can people do now if they want to help?
Well, I mean, almost 1 million people were forced to live outside their homes at some point and for some duration of time as a result of Katrina, and in New Orleans as a result of the federal levee breaches. I'm really only an expert in our tiny corner of New Orleans, in our little 2 square mile area, but I can tell you how you can help us, and I know that there are wonderful grassroots efforts going on in recovery all over. Our website is lower9.org. And right now, as I said, we're running a campaign called 50 States. You can pick your favorite state and donate. You can come and volunteer by all means. You know, and even
sorry, Laura, we're up on the clock. I apologize. I have to hit a break in a couple seconds. Lower9.org is the website. Laura Paul, thank you so much for your time. We're back right after this.